Oh, hey, my grades are ready. A 9? We've all been there before. You send off a card that you think has a really good shot to get a PSA 10, you wait a few months before the grades are finally ready, and then you check your grades just to see that your card got a 9. It sucks, but getting 9s is just part of this market when you grade cards regularly. And if you let it, it'll completely derail your progress. So in this video, we're gonna walk through a few things to help you in this scenario. So first of all, we're gonna talk through what do we actually do when we get a PSA 9. Next, the mindset shift that makes 9s a whole lot easier to deal with. And then finally, we'll wrap up with an actionable tip to make sure that you can still make money on your grading order even when you get 9s. A lot of times when the grades don't go our way is when we start to feel uncertain about the next best step. And so by the end of this video, you're gonna have clarity of what do we actually do to move forward in the best possible way. All right, let's dive into this and let's talk about what should we actually do when we get a PSA 9? What's the best action step to take moving forward? So I'll start here with one of the most common mistakes I see card graders making when they get 9s, and then I'll walk you through what I'd like to do instead. Now, the first step whenever you get a 9 is absolutely to panic. Okay, maybe not. That's probably not going to help us at all. So let's not panic and let's just take a level-headed approach to this. So here's the mistake I see a lot of card graders making. They get a 9 and they end up just holding it. They kind of change the rules because they look at it and say, well, a PSA 9 doesn't add much value. I just spent the time, the grading fee on this card. I'm not going to be able to get my money out, especially after selling fees. I'm probably going to take a small loss if I were to sell this thing right away. And so I'm just going to hold this card. And I want to remind you, let's zoom way out and let's go back to why did we buy this card in the first place? You bought it to grade it. That was the play. The play was to grade the card and make your profit on the grade. It wasn't to buy the card and hold it and hope that something magical happens in the future. You weren't betting on player performance. You weren't playing a seasonal game or a long-term hold game. You bought the card to grade it. So stick to your plan. Grade the card and get to that next card. And so to me, if you end up holding the card instead because you don't want to take a loss, it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make because all of a sudden you just have no strategy. We don't have an action plan. We don't have a reason why or when we think the card's value will rise. We're really just kind of hoping that we might get lucky and get our money back out of this thing just so we don't have to take a small loss. And guys, I hate to break it to you, but that's just a really bad, very short-sighted approach to this. So here's what I like to do instead. I move that card as a 9. I sell it at cost, I sell it for a small loss, and I move on. I like to think about it this way. If I look at that PSA 9, I ask myself, would I have ever actually bought that card as a PSA 9 to hold that card? Do I think that that's truly the best place to put my money? And the answer is almost always a no. So just because we end up with this card doesn't mean that it's the right card to hold. And usually the best move is to free up that money so that we can put it into a better card that we would actually want to invest in, or we can get to that next card to send off for grading that has giant upside attached to it. So the first step is really to recognize that, okay, things didn't go my way, but this was a calculated risk. I knew that I could get a 10, that there would have been a bunch of profit available, and that would have been the big win. I knew that there was a chance at a 9, and this one didn't go my way. That's okay. That's part of the grading process, but we have to move forward so that we can get to that next card. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate losing. And so the idea of signing up for a loss on a 9 isn't my idea of fun. And so I want to share with you a simple mental shift that I've made over the years that's helped me with kind of understanding how 9s fit into the big picture. And it's really made it easier for me to handle it when I do get 9s in my orders. So if you hang around this market long enough, losses are unavoidable. It's just part of the market. You're not going to be right 100% of the time. The best investors in this market are not right 100% of the time. But it's kind of painful to actually take a loss, right? Like it doesn't feel good and it doesn't make us feel like we know what we're doing in this space. It kind of hurts your confidence sometimes too. And so what I like to do is instead of looking at each card individually and saying, did I win or lose on this card? Did I win or lose on this card? Did I win or lose on this card for every single card? I look at it more like plays. Like I'm making a play with this grading order as a whole. And so that lets me bucket all of the cards in that grading order together. And so no longer do I have to say, oh, did I win on this card, this card, this card, and this card? I can say, if I look at the grading order as a whole, did I win and make money on it overall? And that has really helped me see the big picture instead of getting so caught up in, yeah, but I don't want to take a loss on this card here. So taking a loss on one card really doesn't matter if you've got another card in that same grading order that's going to more than make up for that loss and leave you a whole bunch of profit on top of it. So I encourage you to think big, stop getting in the weeds on every single individual card and start thinking in plays rather than on a card by card basis. And so grading orders are certainly an example of a play. So I look at like all the cards that I've added to one grading order and I say, how did I do on this grading order overall? Another example of plays are when I'm playing the seasonal timing game. I look at, okay, how did I do for this buying season and this selling season? Even if I don't win on all of those cards, did I actually make money buying at the low of the market and selling at the high of the market overall? Another one is looking at a specific player and saying, okay, I'm going to go after this particular player because I think that this player is a good investment. And so again, each card might be a little bit different. You may end up selling some for more or less profit or even take a loss on some, but do you have enough cards of that player that overall you were right on the play? And when you think this way, it's almost like you have permission to move on from the cards that you know you shouldn't hold, but you don't have to worry about taking a loss on those if you've got other cards that can more than make up for that loss. So thinking in plays is freeing in a lot of ways. Now I want to share an actionable tip with you that'll help you make sure you're in position to make money even if you do get 9s on your orders. And to do this, let's walk through an example together and I'll actually show you what I mean. So let's say I buy 4 Victor Wembanyama Silver Prism rookie cards to get graded, and I pay an average of $500 each, which is about what they go for at the time of this recording. So I send them off to PSA to be graded, and guess what? My grades come back and I get absolutely clobbered. I only get 1 PSA 10 and the other 3 come back as 9s. Now here's the bad news. The 9s only go for about $500 to $550. So after grading fees and after selling fees, I end up losing about $100 per 9. Ouch. But guess what? I'm actually still very happy overall with my order because that 1 PSA 10 is now worth $1,500, and even after grading fees and selling fees, I end up netting a profit of $750. So even though I lost on 75% of the cards in this order, which is certainly enough to make a grown man cry if you're judging yourself on a card by card basis, I still won the play overall because of that 110 and how much upside was tied to that card. So just to play out the math, if we have 110 that's worth $750 of profit, even though we lost $100 each on the 3 PSA 9s, we still end up with a $450 net profit on the order. Not bad for just 4 cards, right? And so what's the key here? How did we still make money even though we only got a 25% gem rate? That's really not very good. Well, guess what? We sent cards that had such high upside when they get PSA 10s that upside more than handled the losses from the 9s that we got. And so one of the biggest unlocks in the entire grading game and in the entire card market is to send higher upside cards. And when I say higher upside, I mean look at PSA 10s that give you a big win. We don't want little wins that don't move the needle. We want to put a ton of money in our pockets when we get a 10. And that is how you set yourself up for success, even if you get 9s in your grading order. So 2 key takeaways from this one for you guys, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So the first one is to understand that when we're grading ultra modern cards, we make our money on the 10s. And frankly, I don't care if I lose on every single 9 that I get because I'm not playing not to lose. I'm playing to win. And if I'm targeting cards that have giant PSA 10 upside, then the money from those 10s will more than cover any losses from the 9s, where the order will still be highly profitable overall. And then the second takeaway, which is even more important, is to think bigger. I don't care if you won or lost on one specific card. I care if you won on the grading order overall, and how did you do for the month, and how did you do for the year? Small mindsets get small results. Big mindsets get big results. And guess what? The best part is you get to decide what kind of mindset you're gonna have. Now, if you're someone who's actively trying to level up in the card market and you want help applying frameworks like this instead of trying to do it on your own, I run a program called Ignite where we help up-and-coming card investors do exactly that. I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to see full details, but otherwise we'll see you on the next video.